Hello, welcome. It's been a little minute coming. I've told a lot of you about this framework that I've been working on. And so it's called the Fair Anxiety Framework. My executive assistant has created the slides as I've given him the information. But this is a test. If you are receiving this, this is a test. This is one I need some people to test it out and see how it works for them. Does it work for you? Is it just strange? Is it weird? What tweaks maybe needs to happen? And does it give you an actual measurable outcome that helps? All right. So, why I created the Fair Anxiety Framework, this is specifically because I found myself having a lot of tools to deal with anxiousness or anxiety. A lot of tools. I got a lot of different tools, and I help people through it. But the thing is, when I don't have a person to help me through it, what do I do? And another thing that I was having an issue with or struggle with was the fact that even though I had the tools and I could help myself get through anxiety and the anxiousness, the issue was I never knew if I was moving through it properly and if I was addressing it appropriately. So I would feel it, know what to do, but I wasn't sure that I was actually moving through it in a way that addresses it from a somatic level, an emotional level, an Enneagram level, psychologically. So I never knew if I was actually moving through something or if I was just, feeling the same anxiety over and over again. So it was like I didn't know about the progress or the process. And so I created this because I had to find a way that I was like, there has to be a way to break this down that helps me to see how can I move through it and sometimes figure it out. Because sometimes I don't know about you, but my anxiousness and anxiety, I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I don't pinpoint it. So I may be able to remove it or lessen it or soften it or let it move through me, whatever we want to say. But I did not necessarily figure out where it was coming from. So it left me in like kind of a leaving the door open of like, will it come back? What was it? I don't know how to properly address it if it is something I can address. And so this is why I created the FAIR anxiety framework. So this is what FAIR stands for. FAIR stands for find, allow, reconnect, and expand. And I'm going to break this down, each one of them, so that you can understand it. And for those watching this video, you're also going to get a PDF of information that breaks this down much more clearly with a couple of paragraphs and a couple of graphics to really help you break it down. So, the first F, find. So, find means that in the first time you recognize that you have anxiety or anxiousness going on, you're going to find, what are you finding? You find your breath. You find the place that feels anxious or that feels um, tension or tightness. So, the purpose and the focus of find is to work on stabilizing your nervous system first, because we're not going to try to figure out stuff while our nervous system is all cattywampus and all over the place. So this matters because what we want to do is we want to figure out where in the body is this actually occurring, because whenever there's anxiousness or anxiety, it's happening somewhere in the physical body. And for us to locate it, it becomes very important because this part of us needs some contact. So in the find phase of fair anxiety framework, the first thing is slow down. Slow down. Anxiety has this feeling of making us rush because we have adrenaline and cortisol rushing through us. And so, us slowing down is literally giving a signal to our whole body like, hold on, there's a lot going on. I'm gonna also need you internally to slow down. So, you want to slow your movement and you want to notice sensations. This is important. You want to notice your sensations. What is going on in the body? Where is it things happening in the body? This is very important. And so when you can notice where this sensation is in your body, if you can find a way, just like this picture, put a hand there, right? Or put both hands there, or touch that spot while you find your breath. Because sometimes trying to tell you how to breathe when you're dysregulated is not helpful. So literally just find your breath, like locate it, just like, ooh, I'm breathing. All find is doing is helping you come to this moment, okay? So you place a hand where you can find it, wherever you find that tension to be in your body. Solar plexus for me carry a lot of anxiety or anxiousness for me very commonly, and sometimes my lower belly. It can be different for you, but you want to locate it and you want to place a hand there. And then the question for find is, am I physically safe now? Am I physically safe now? Because your body, a lot of times when anxiousness or anxiety is happening, it feels a threat and it feels like it isn't safe for some reason, some way, somehow. And so, literally giving yourself the question, am I physically safe right now? Starts the process of helping the body, the nervous system to regulate some, because it's like, listen, hold up. I am not physically being threatened right now. There's something else going on. Okay. All right. And so our next, when we move on from the finds phase, which is literally finding it and just breathing, the second phase is allow. Now, allow may actually take the most time at the beginning for sure, because allow is creating space for whatever feeling, anxiousness, or anxiety that is existing in you at the moment. Can you allow and make space for what feels um, tense, tight, anxious, or anxiety in your body? Can you allow that to exist in you? Because what you resist will persist. So, this is where we're trying to not resist what's happening, and we're trying to allow it to be there so that it can do what it needs to do to metabolize and hopefully move along, soften, change form. Because your body needs to digest something it hasn't had a chance to digest. And this could be from childhood years, this could be from last week, it could be a lot of different things, right? But it hasn't had a chance to digest something. And so now it feels that it's being threatened. So here is a moment where you allow that part of you the space and a place to be able to move through it so it has the intelligence to work with it. The struggle sometimes is that we have learned how to um, push it away, not feel it, escape it, distract ourselves from it, and then we go on about our way. But we never, we don't always learn how to move through something or allow something to move through us by giving it the space it needs to transform and move and metabolize and digest like it needs to. So the allow stage is when this can happen. So the question here is, can I make space for this? Or what needs attention in me? So these are different questions you can ask yourself. So when you say, can I make space for this? Depending on how much inner work and knowledge that you know, sometimes making space is saying, okay, I feel it in my solar plex. Can I, in my mind, imagine myself breathing around it? Can I breathe in front of it? Can I breathe behind whatever the feeling is? Maybe can I even breathe through it? That one's a little tough sometimes, you know? But just literally creating space for it and not trying to reject it. Like this is very important. And so when you're doing this next step, which is allow, you already got your hand on whatever part of your body that's feeling anxious or tense because you're providing some connection, some calm, saying, hey, it's okay, I'm here, right? Your breath is allowing the internal to start to create space for it so that it can do what it needs to do. Now, how do you know when your body is a little bit more regulated? Here are some signs that I tend to experience, and I would love to know what you experience as well. So sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll have to sit and I find it and I'm allowing it and I'm just breathing. I'm just slowly breathing, checking my breathing. I'm feeling into the space. I'm allowing it to be there. Now, you may want to, sometimes I get a random yawn, like all of a sudden I can yawn because now I have more spaciousness inside. Sometimes my eyes water, right? Sometimes I have a shift in my body wherever it was, maybe it shifts a little bit. It doesn't feel the exact same, or it softens. There's different ways that you get kind of a message. Maybe a tension loosens up somewhere in the body. There's different ways that it happens where it starts to be like, whew. And sometimes it's just a small, subtle shift, and this takes a little bit of more of awareness to grow and learn. But it allows you to be like, oh, okay. Then that gives you the indicator that you're probably ready for the next phase, which is the R. But this is what happens for me. So I timed myself one time. doing this because I was like, how long am I taking in this allow phase? And for me, one time it took about 15 minutes, right? It's not always going to take 15 minutes for everyone, but literally just you spending time to allow it, even if it isn't the full time and you're waiting on the full experience of seeing the shift in your body, it's okay because I know you have things to do too. But I'm telling you, it helps when you definitely feel the shift, but literally allowing your body enough time to allow it gives you the signal that you're ready for the next step in this phase because now your body has digested it some and it's become a little bit more regulated. The nervous system became a little more regulated, seriously, right? And this is important for moving to the next one because we don't want to try to mentally bypass, spiritually bypass, emotionally bypass. Um, the actual work and sensations of our bodies because we can do that. We can jump too fast to try to solve it or explain it away or say this when our body is like, hold up, give me a chance. I'm gonna take care of it. I'm wise. I'm very wise. Trust me. I do most of the stuff you don't even understand how I do it. And I take care of it, make you keep you alive. But I need you to slow down so I can actually do it. This is a big thing. So the next thing is reconnect. The next R is reconnect. So this is a returning to yourself. When we experience anxiousness and anxiety, it disconnects us, right? It dysregulates the nervous system, but it disconnects us from our bodies most of the time. Like our fully being in tune with our whole bodies. It disconnects us from the present moment because it feels that there's a threat. So now mentally, my mind and my emotions have gone somewhere else because now there's some form of a threat that could be popping up really soon, that could come around the corner, that might be way down in the future, whatever it may be, right? So it's disconnecting us and it's disconnecting us from the deeper parts of ourselves. All right. So this step is specifically woven within the Enneagram, but it's to help us get beneath what the fear is because anxiousness and anxiety are products of fear. Okay. So I'm gonna give you some reflection examples on the next slide. That's Enneagram based questions based on your type. So each type is going to have a specific question to which the anxiety tends to operate around. And the anxiety for most types, at least in my exploration for right now, we'll see what happens when you get feedback, comes from core fear and core motivation. Um, Anxiety. So it comes from those areas. So the key here, and this is one reason I definitely wanted to not put the questions on this slide with it, is when you ask the question, I encourage you to ask the question the way I have written it specifically. And I say that because you're dealing with a delicate part of yourself. And so the last thing we want is for you to be critical and judgmental of yourself when you're trying to work through actually harmonizing, healing, metabolizing, regulating your body, your nervous system. You may be trying to work through something that is very big, your body is, and you're, moving real fast, and then you're interrogating yourself with this question. We're not doing that. We don't want that because we don't want that inner critic coming out and actually doing more harm or putting us right back into a dysregulated way of being. So here are the questions, and you do it based on your type. So typically, this is where the anxiety comes from. Something here feels off. So if you were type one, you would say in this step, after you found it, you've been breathing, you've allowed it, maybe you yawn, you was like, oh my goodness. And now you ask yourself, does something feel wrong or bad to you? Because whatever's going on that has created the anxiety, now you start to ask the question, does something feel wrong or bad to you? Right? Ask it that way. Don't say to me. No, literally say to you. This is a lighter way, a less judgmental way of addressing inner parts of yourself. And it gives you a moment to disconnect from being so wound up in the anxiety. The difference between experiencing anxiety and I'm anxious, right? There's a difference because now you just said I am compared to I'm experiencing. There's a difference. So this question is designed to create a little bit of space from that anxiety and that fear so that your mind can come back online, that prefrontal cortex, a little bit more, and your heart to start being like, okay, let me think about this. Does something feel unappreciated or unwanted to you? Ooh, do I feel appreciated or unwanted? Oh my. It's because they did XYZ. Is that the core of this? Oh my goodness. That helps to unravel where we can really get stuck here. And so for me, my personal experience with the type 7 thing, oh my gosh, it's crazy how much anxiety shows up around me feeling trapped or limited by something, right? Does something feel trapping or limiting to you? So I started to think through all the stuff because there's so much stuff going on, your body dysregulated. And I was like, oh, this feels trapping and limiting because I have to do XYZ and it feels like I'm having to do way too much and I won't be able to do XYZ. Oh my goodness. Oh, they're trying like it blows my mind. This part right here really blows my mind, and I would love to see how it works for you or or if it doesn't, right? Let me know. But this has helped me because it's a lot of times at the root of a lot of most of my anxieties. And then when I know what the thing is, now I can be like, "Ooh, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get a chance and write that down. I'm gonna make sure I take note of that because now I know what I can work with. Now I know what it is that's causing this. And I got to more of the root instead of dealing with a bunch of symptoms, right? A lot of times we deal with a bunch of symptoms and we don't get to the root. So we never really solve it. So we never really move through it. And so this last step, which is also just as important as all of them, is called expand. And expand is you have to release this stored anxiety from your body because that cortisol, that adrenaline, all of that stuff, it gets stored in the body because we're having a physiological reaction to something in life. And unlike when we were, I guess, first like humans living way back in the day or like with more like animals and tribal and villages and stuff where when there was a real threat then we actually got the experience of going through it and like we ran and so our bodies got exhausted so we used up energy or we had to do different things to actually exude that energy that was built up in us. Nowadays the way our life is set up, we don't always have those experiences, so the anxiety, the cortisol, the adrenaline builds up and then we try to figure it out and then we keep going, right? We try to get our nervous system regulated, then we keep going, but we don't release it if we're not careful. So specifically the last part of this framework is expand. And so expand can look like a lot of different things, but no, it's expanding because what anxiety does, it contracts you, it contracts your body. So now we're expanding, so whatever part of your body you want to help it expand, stretch, move the energy. So it can look like many different things. Sometimes expansion can just be breathing, big inhales, big exhales, making sure your belly gets really big, really big so you can feel it. Your lungs get really full when you breathe out, right? Stretching. Sometimes, since it's my solar plexus, I'll do that weird looking seal stretch that, like how seals kind of look normally, but I'll stretch that way because the solar plexus for me are tight. And then sometimes I'll even do some tapping or I'll do some poking and I'll do some shaking sometimes. There's a lot of different things we can do. And for some people, sometimes the tapping on the body is not a light tap. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher for some people, but don't hurt yourself. It's not about that, but it's about how do I stretch, loosen up, and let the body know it's okay. We can relax here. We're okay. So this part is also important as well. And also, like you said, it can also be exercise. How do you make sure, especially after you've had a high stress or you had some high anxiety, cortisol, adrenaline was released in your body. How are you going to release it? Exercise is one beautiful way to release that as well. So that's another way to do this. Okay. So that is the short and easy of FAIR anxiety framework. And I'm hoping it can help you to move through it because what it's done for me, it actually has helped me move through some anxiety that I used to sit with. I understood where the anxiousness and anxiety existed, and I could attack what made me anxious and anxiety after I went through the process. And then it stopped coming back for that specific thing. So it was like I figured it out and I figured out ways to move through it so it's not still holding me back and showing up over and over again because it's not properly addressing it. So that's what it's done for me. I hope it does something positive and great for you. And I hope this is something that, shoot, we can start to share with other people to help them move through anxiousness and anxiety with a plan, with a process. So thank you so much. And yeah, let me know how it goes. I'll send you the PDF as well.